I am pretty certain that I've shared this before, but it's certainly worth repeating. It's something that I used to do way before I entered seminary. When I was teaching religion to middle school kids, there was an exercise that I did on the very first day of class. I would ask the kids in each class to draw for me a picture of God, of how they saw God, how they perceived him. The drawings were very interesting. There was a lot of conventional stuff that you would expect to see from kids. They would draw fields and little houses, and maybe you would see Jesus, it was some guy with long hair and a beard, and little hearts would come out of him and things like that. And then there were, you had your share of, the old guy with a hanging beard in the cloud that was looking down at everything. You had your share of those. Listen, every now and then you'd get one that was really weird. One I'll never forget was, people in a village down there or whatever, and Jesus on top of a UFO. Checking it all out. And probably the weirdest and freakiest one I ever saw was one where Jesus was walking through these fields. He was walking like a zombie, like this, and he had a bizarre look on his face, and lightning bolts were coming out of his hand, and he was like, zapping people and killing them. I thought, God only knows what's happening in that home. But of course, all of these expressions, all these things they drew, were the result. They were conditioned by so many things: the world they lived in, the way they were raised, what was happening in the house, whatever they may have seen on TV or in a movie or whatnot. And the whole point of that exercise was to teach the kids that no matter how they saw God, God was more than how they pictured him. And that's the purpose of, I would tell them, that's the purpose of studying religion and coming to know our faith better and all that. It's really all about coming to know God better, more intimately. And we see this play out today in the gospel of this third Sunday of Lent, this encounter with the Samaritan woman, which I think you're pretty familiar with. I spared you the very long version, the soap opera version of it that describes how this woman, was with this man now, how she had been through I don't know how many husbands and how many men, and the poor soul, her life was just a train wreck. Well, I spared you that. I think you know that. But what do we essentially see? Well, we see this woman who encounters Jesus, but of course, she can't begin to recognize that he's God. She thinks he's just another ordinary guy. Well, Jesus could fool you that way, because that's what he was. He was ordinarily human in his appearance on earth, but little by little, Jesus reveals to her that God is a lot more than she pictures him to be. She, of course, her concept of God is conditioned by her culture, is conditioned by the circumstances in her life, and it's quite conditioned by all the stuff that she drags within her. Her pain is conditioned by her sense of shame. And of course, Jesus invites her to come to know him better, because everything that she has been looking for in various facets of her life, she is going to find in him, in coming to know him and coming to develop an intimate relationship with him. That's what all that allusion to the water is about. The water that I will give will never make you thirsty again. The water from this well will. You got to keep coming back. Okay? And it's no different for us. Our concept of God is conditioned as well by so many realities. It's conditioned by, how we were brought up. It's conditioned by the experiences we've had in life. It's conditioned by the pain, the guilt, the shame, the hurts that sometimes we may bear and drag with us. And it's also conditioned by the culture that we live in and erupts all around us. But wherever it is that we're at, we have to be aware that God is more. God is more than how we perceive him to be. And the season of Lent calls us precisely to strip away distractions, excesses, all these things going on in our lives, all these things, more times than not, that we tend to mismanage, which keep us from discovering, experiencing God as he truly is. And to the degree that we do that and we genuinely encounter him all the more as he truly is, guess what? We're not as thirsty, we're not as hungry, we're not as all over the place as that Samaritan woman was, as we sometimes tend to be. Haven't you noticed that there are so many realities that we pursue which are not bad in and of themselves, which give us life. It could be material things. Material things are not bad in and of themselves. We can't live without material realities, right? Perhaps it's career pursuits. Well, you know what? A career is a good thing. That's how we serve humanity with our unique talents and experiences and whatnot. But, a career, whatever it is that we find life in, haven't you noticed that even though we can have those things, even though we can gain successes in those realities, haven't you noticed that they don't totally fulfill us? We keep looking for more. We keep looking for something new. Whatever it is that we have or whatever it is that we accomplish doesn't seem to be enough. And the moral of this story is that which we are looking for, that fulfillment, that hunger, that peace, that sense of exhilaration, we can only have and sustain in a relationship with God. With God, we will never get bored. I can tell you that. We will never get bored if we experience him genuinely. God is one big, joyful, thrilling adventure. So as we continue persevering through our Lenten journey, let us ask the Lord to help us all the more perhaps reflect on, what it is we think about God, and perhaps in what areas our vision may be a little off. And very especially, let's ask him to draw us closer to himself, to come to know him more genuinely, so that picture of him in our lives, the picture of ourselves, the picture of life, may be more accurate, may be more vibrant, may certainly be more joyful.